Catching multiple exceptions. With each try block, you can have several catch blocks for catching different kinds of exception. And in that case, Java will actually catch the first exception and then move on with that. So here's the example. Here we have an integer n set to 0, and in a try block and an integer array, my numbers that is initially set to 1, 2, 3. And with the print statement, we have my number of 1, index 1, divided by n. So this is a potential divide by 0 exception. We also have another print line where we have my number. We're trying to print my number of index 10, and this is a potential index out of bounds exception. And then we can catch index out of bounds exception with one catch block, and with another catch block we can try to catch the arithmetic exception E and then handle them. So in this case, in this example, this is the first exception that is thrown, which is arithmetic exception. We're going to catch it here. However, if we have an integer n set to 2, that means there is no exception thrown in this line. However, this line will throw an exception, and we can catch this with index out of bounds exception. So notice here that the order of exception is not the try block, but is where the exception happens. So Java will catch the first exception and then handle it and move on without looking at the second exception. So let's see this in the example. So let's look at this example in the editor. So again, we have an integer n set to 0, integer array my number set to 1, 2, 3, and in line 8 we have my number 1 divided by n, which is in this case divided by 0 exception, and my number of index 10, and this is an index out of bounds exception. So let's see what this program will do. So let's compile first and run the program. So we get try to divide by 0. So we caught the first exception and then we ignore the second one. And in case that n is not 0 but is 2, which means that we can skip this and then catch this exception. So let's try this. I have to recompile and run again. So in this case, this part of the program went on without any problem. However, in this line, we got an index out of bounds exception, and we were able to catch this exception with this catch block, index out of bounds exception. So once again, it's not the order of the catch blocks, but it's the whenever the first exception occurs, and then we'll try to catch that exception.